The losing streak reaches 27 consecutive games.
9.7 left. Oh boy, here we go. Sell the team, they're saying.
The unknown comic.
I am a proud fan of sports teams who are often pretty bad. Last year, I watched my favorite basketball team lose 28 games in a row, win only 14 games, and get the 5th pick in the draft after already getting the 5th pick in the Wemby sweepstakes. But yet, I'm still here rooting for them. How do I do this besides Stockholm Syndrome? Well, it definitely helps that the team is actually decent this year, but there's still a lot of time for them to mess it up, so I'm not getting my hopes up yet. I have sat through awful seasons, bad draft picks, playoff chokes, and really anything else that comes with being a fan of bad sports teams. No one likes watching their favorite team when they suck, but it's the tough part about sports that every fan has to accept. Today, I want to help other fans who might find themselves having to cheer for some bad teams. Whether your team is entering another rebuild, coming off a historic dynasty and now sucks, or if your team just flat out always sucks, I'm here to help. Step 1. You see this? I want you to completely throw it out the window. Hope is a cruel and unforgiving beast that will crush you when you believe just a bit too much. If you haven't already, you need to face reality. Your team sucks. They are not going to win many games, they are not making the playoffs, and even if they somehow did, they definitely are not winning any sort of championship. Sure, your team might surprise you and start winning, but you need to recognize the trap. Delusion is a powerful thing that lets fans believe their team is much closer to being good than they really are. When the Detroit Tigers came out of nowhere to make the playoffs and then somehow won a playoff series against the Houston Astros, I started to get my hopes up. I mean, we only have to win 2 more playoff series and we're in the World Series. We came this far, why can't this be the year? We had the roar of '84, what about the roar of '24? No, of course that's not what happened.
Thomas swings, hits a high fly ball deep in the left field. It is up, it is gonna be a grand slam!
Instead of relying on hope, try being cautiously optimistic. Of course, you're allowed to be happy that your team is doing better than you thought they would, but you need to understand that it can go downhill very quickly. So don't rely on hope. Maybe just pepper spray it in the face instead. Step 2. Pick a favorite player. This might be the most important step in the process. Having a player that you can follow and become a big fan of makes watching your crappy sports teams a lot easier. There's no guideline for picking your favorite player. You can choose any reason for why you want to be a fan of someone. Your favorite player could be a young talent who's likely going to be a star. They could be someone who just brings a fun energy to the team. They could be a crazy trash talker who's always starting beef with other teams. Whatever your reason might be, you need to pick a favorite player. Otherwise, you'll be bored out of your mind when you turn on the TV. Now, I should warn you that this can and probably will backfire on you at some point. Your favorite player is not guaranteed to stay with your team. There are a lot of different things that can go wrong. Your favorite player might suffer a brutal injury that has them miss the rest of the season. They might just call it quits and retire. They might sign with a different team, even your rival who, let's be honest, is doing much better than your team. But the worst possible thing that could happen, the one thing that might make you stop watching sports forever, is that your favorite player could be traded to the Lakers. There's absolutely nothing you can do to stop the Los Angeles Lakers from getting your favorite player. It doesn't matter how good they are or even what sport they play. If your favorite player is on a AA minor league baseball team, get ready to see an ESPN headline saying that the Lakers are rumored to land them. The ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras once said, "Given an infinite amount of time, everyone who has lived or ever will live will at some point in time be traded to the Los Angeles Lakers." And even if your favorite player doesn't end up on the Lakers, they'll probably just go to the Dodgers instead. All jokes aside, having good teams be interested in your favorite player can sometimes be a good thing. If your team has a player who's a star in the making, and fans of good teams want to get them on their team, that means there's promise for the future of your team. There's no promise for your team right now, I mean, they are awful. But in the future, they might just be solid. Step 3. Embrace it. There are bad seasons, and there are bad, awful, terrible seasons. These are the seasons that make people embarrassed to say that they're a fan of a certain team. My advice? Don't be. People will make fun of you for how bad your team is. Why not just laugh along with everyone? Do you think Cleveland Browns fans were defending their team when they didn't win a single game in 2017? No, they had a parade and jumped in Lake Erie with their head coach. If your team is bad, let them be bad. Do not ever wish that you were a fan of another team. Don't ever question yourself for picking the team that you did. And definitely don't let other teams' fans, especially rival fans, pity you. I can guarantee you that Raiders fans are not looking for any sympathy from Chiefs fans. If you get too down in the dumps about your team being bad, your enjoyment of sports will only go downhill. Yeah, it sucks when your team sucks, but it's the circle of life for teams. There will be a time when they are good, so just take the losses at the chin. You'll be fine. Now before I go, I would like to give some other tips that can make your journey a little bit easier. First off, never say anything along the lines of, "This might be the year," or "Man, this year just feels different." It is statistically proven that the chances of your team being good after saying something like this goes down by over 80%. Why do you think the Cowboys haven't done anything since the 90s? It's because their fans are always talking about how this year is not like all the other ones. They are actually going to be good this year and not lose to the Packers or 49ers in the playoffs. Don't put too much hope in a drafted player being a star. There are too many examples of athletes who were supposed to be top players in the league, only for them to completely spiral and become some of the biggest draft busts ever. Unless your team is drafting LeBron James or Peyton Manning, don't get too excited. Don't bet on your teams when they are bad. If I see any of you sweating over a 12-leg parlay involving the Charlotte Hornets or Miami Marlins, I'm calling some sort of hotline number for you. And finally, just enjoy watching sports. Whether your team wins no games or every single game, there's nothing quite like picking a team to root for and following them through all the ups and downs. When the time comes for your team to be at the top, all of the pain will be worth it, because it could always be worse. You could be talking about politics instead. Before I go, I want to thank everyone for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers so quickly. The support that I've gotten in such a short amount of time has been insane and very motivating, and I appreciate all of you who have decided to stick around. I'll see you all next week.